Hello, welcome to another video from thefanpub.com.
Good to be back, Al, and this is going to be a strategy video, isn't it? What are we going to talk about for this one?
Yeah, we're going to talk about, you're halfway through your, well, maybe 3/4 away through your Dynasty season.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to tell you what to do if you've got a winning team, if you're still in the hunt, or if you looks like your season's over.
Okay, so it's a pure strategy video around Dynasty teams. I think this is excellent because we've got very big perspectives. Al's very good at putting together teams that do well from day one, and then he has to try and hold on and keep winning, which is interesting. And I tend to look at them as longer-term investments. You go for the win year one, but I've had a couple of teams where things have gone very badly wrong. So, and then that gives you a good perspective of what to do to turn them around, and you will surprise people of what you can do in a quick year. So it is interesting. So where would you like to start? Which bit would you think would be best to go with?
Well, let's start with your team performing badly.
Yeah,
You're
and it's
2 and 6.
three quarters of the way through that season.
Yeah, you're 2 and 6 perhaps.
Yeah, still got a chance. I mean, at 2 and 6, you've still got a hope that you might make the playoffs.
But the likelihood is.
But your team is badly performing.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to decide what to do with your assets. These are the players in your team that are your best players that may be performing well, but the rest of your team is letting them down. It's you've looked at your bench, you realise there's no saving the team, and you're not likely to be able to trade for anything at this stage because it's 3/4 of the way through the season. People just aren't going to give away pieces.
So what I'd recommend doing is looking at the age of your players. If you've got good ones that are aging, look to move them on, build for the future.
Look to take picks for the next year.
Yeah, because in a dynasty league, you're 2 and 6. It's unlikely you're going to rescue it from there. Just try and gather some picks for next year, or maybe say if you've got a player like AJ Green, not getting any younger.
Yeah,
he's having a good year, but he's not done enough.
Good point. Yeah.
There's going to be plenty of people that are fighting out, for the title, and AJ Green would be a big plus to any of them teams. So there's going to be a market for him.
So
if me and Sean were going for it,
so what you're highlighting is,
and I could get AJ Green as one of the top teams.
We're both going to want him.
That's going to help my team a lot. Yeah,
we're
Sean
both
wouldn't want me to have him.
So you're going to get people to bite your hand off and are going to offer more than he probably is worth because you're 3/4 of the way through the season.
If you wait till the next season to get rid of him,
it's too late.
He's another year older and he's less valuable.
So what Al's highlighted is brilliant. He's saying your asset can be used against teams in the running who will guarantee want the services of that player and will offer you more than the normal market forces would allow.
Yeah.
Are you a big fan of using calculators for a guide, or do you like to kind of instinctively go at it? What's your thoughts?
I think calculators are just there for a guide. They're not your cast in stone. You've got to like the player that you're being offered.
Yeah.
I mean, in that situation, if I had AJ Green, he's having a good year. There's plenty of people want him. I'd be either looking for draft picks for next year, like a first rounder and maybe a player as well, depending on how much you can get. I mean, don't just offer him to one team. Just say, look, make it known that he's available and see what offers you get and take the best one. If it's a player and a pick, then you get a young player for the future and the pick and a good rookie for next year. So,
it depends a little bit on the league size, but if you're getting a pick, say a top 8, a 108 potentially, because you won't know how teams finish, but if it ends up being a 108, 109, 110, that's still pretty good because you're gonna you can look ahead to the draft class.
It'll probably be a later one because they're good teams.
They're good teams. But if you get a player to go with that, then you've got two parts: one player for next year, thinking ahead, and a pick to go with that. So you've already rebuilding.
You've added 2 pieces for somebody who's going to be worth a lot less. So it's about getting the best price for your player, basically. And you've got to know when to sell.
I think that's good as well. And the other thing about that, which I like, is the fact that having that pick, so whether we'll call it a 110, we'll say it's a 110, and in a league that's got 12 teams, you happen to end up with a 1010, that's how it falls. You already have a pick anyway because you probably finished badly, so you've now got 2 firsts. So you've got to think of that and then what you can do with those. But
think about what else you do. Say if you got AJ Green, he's your best performing player, he's doing really well, and then you lose him, you're going to lose a lot more games. It's not tanking because you're still playing the best team available.
It's totally legal. You're already out.
Your team's taking a hit, so you're likely to get a better pick.
People aren't going to moan about that. They're going to understand that you're.
Well, no, you can only play the best team that you have.
Yeah.
If you trade a game for a pick, and a player that's not so good for that.
It could be a Robert Foster thinking ahead to this season.
It's actually going to help you get a higher pick for your dynasty team next year as well.
So now you're armed with
extra value.
Now you've got 2 firsts, and it could be that you end up with let's say it's not the worst scenario, you don't finish last, but say you end up 3rd bottom. So you've got the 103 and the 110. Now the nice thing with the 103 is when it comes to drafting, like I do this a lot, I take the 103 and then I turn it into 2 picks because people are desperate for that high pick.
Yeah, it depends how much of a rebuild you need. If there's someone you like at 103, say
them.
David Montgomery this year,
take them. But if
you need a running back, perhaps.
take them. But if you're thinking, oh, actually, it's a big rebuild job I've gone on, try and get 2 picks.
Yeah,
try and get more value for it because people will want to buy that pick.
So, firstly, I mean, I had a team last year and it probably underperformed due to injuries and other factors. I had Kareem Hunt, obviously, disappeared at the end due to the video that came out.
Yep.
But also Dalvin Cook, who missed most of the year, so that ended any chance I had. So rather than become mid-table, not make the playoffs, and my pick's going to be worse, I traded away Golden Tate, and I traded away AJ Green, looking for
some upside.
Yeah. And I traded, I had Carlos Hyde, I traded him for a pick as well. Take anything I get because I think his days as a running back.
And I think
numbered really.
And I think another thing that can often be missed as well is, I mean, we've just talked about Green as a good player to trade in this situation, which Al's highlighted brilliantly. But also you could have other ageing players on that team, or players that are okay players, but aren't going to get you a first or a second round pick. It's fine trading them off to get a third or a fourth or a fifth next year because you are looking at shots, and shots are important. And the more shots you have, the greater the chance you are of landing that big player. And I want to be honest about this as well. So you might think, oh, that's really difficult to do. Yes, it is. But if you look at our videos and you examine, and you unfortunately you can only go on what we say, but both of us know this to be factual, so do our people of TFP. I had a team that looked on paper after drafting great for the playoffs. I mean, how would that team not make the playoffs because it was so good? I traded picks to get further up the board. I picked good players. It looked great on paper. I had Andrew Luck in that team. I had Devontae Freeman, and I happened to have them on the years and Michael Thomas, who did very well, but was one of the shining stars of the team. But when it happened, the season happened, I didn't make the playoffs because everybody got injured, everything went wrong, and now I have a big decision because I've got to look at a slightly different scenario. I could hold those pieces, but no one knew at that stage how long Luck was going to be out for, and it was very doubtful even for the next season. He had the shoulder to come back to. I had Freeman. I managed to trade on him. I turned the whole team round. So when I went into the next season, my team on paper looked a shadow of the previous team, but I was confident that I would make the playoffs. That's how it played out because I made some great choices with the extra picks low down, and one of them was Philip Lindsay.
And that's how difference. Quickly you can turn a team round. There's no point in just sitting there with old players and watching your team go. You'd rather trade them away and get what you can.
You're going to be worth less and less as the years roll by.
Because there's always going to be a market because people are trying to win a championship. And if I'm on the cusp of making the playoffs, I'm going to go to these lower teams with older players, and I'm happy to take
I sold a couple of good players. They looked really good on paper. I managed to sell. It's going to sound like, wow, that you gave up a lot. But you have to remember, I've already got 5 picks. I actually had a lot more picks. And what I did is I took Michael Thomas and Devontae Freeman. I sold the pair of them for round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and a round 5 pick. So I've now got 5 extra shots. Those picks turned out to be gold. So they turned out more than the value of those. And on paper, that looked like a steal for the opponent.
You managed to steal Philip Lindsay in the 5th.
Yeah, and I also had my first round pick as well. And that could still pan out to be very useful this year. So we've got to see how it all plays out in time. But it does look good. So
so let's look at the converse.
Yeah.
So we've said what to do if your team's underperforming. Trade away your older players. Look for pieces, and obviously you're going to score. You're going to win less games with a weaker team and get a better pick. So again, that pick's more valuable.
And you might have other picks for other rounds, and then look to use some of your rookie knowledge to secure some of those.
The other thing I would say, and this is something that a lot of people miss, and it's very important. When it comes to the playoff weeks, and there are some leagues that stop people in the playoffs not picking up players, but this is a Dynasty league. You're entitled to pick up those players as much as people in the playoffs.
Do it.
There's people like, you think of last year, people like Damian Williams, that came in late and did a job.
And then now is actually relevant for this season.
And now, look, he's probably a third or fourth round player. He's a top player on a top offence. And this is someone that was available probably. He wouldn't have been on any teams in Dynasty until those final few weeks.
Never stop picking people up if you feel they've got relevance and you've got spaces on the bench to hold them.
Don't sleep on players that are still going to have some value towards the end of the season. I mean, C.J. Anderson came in and did a job. Okay, he's not brilliant, but he is a piece that might have some value. But there's plenty of these players around.
Any player, no matter how obscure, like, having 3 or 4 quarterbacks in a rebuilding team doesn't matter to you because you're rebuilding. So you're only going to play one, but you might use others for pieces. That's fine. I always think, I never worry about this because I've used, I did some strange things in some leagues where people thought, oh my God, but I traded Patrick Mahomes for 3 first-round picks. I then managed on one of those picks, it was Baker Mayfield, and still had 2 firsts and my own first. I think that team looks pretty stacked. I haven't given up a lot, actually. I've still got a relevant quarterback who could be, many people call him Baker, touchdown maker. We'll see how it plays out. But the worst case scenario is in the fighting pack, chasing for, top 10 numbers. I mean, that's good enough. And with the extra picks, it could pan out to be a good team.
Yeah, and he might turn out to be better than Mahomes. We just don't know yet.
This year's different.
Mahomes is obviously looking like a
stud.
Really good player.
Yeah, very good player.
Just to add to David Williams, there was people like Kalen Ballage. Okay, he's not a world beater, but he's in the mix.
You'd rather have him on your dynasty team than not.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get rid of your 25th player for somebody who might get some points this year. You got people like Robert Foster who came in and did a good job, and they've still got a chance.
And I think this highlights another strategy I like to use is when you are a team that's floundering, and I'm afraid the season is finished, and you're building picks for next year. Another way to do it is to build players for next year as well, not just the picks. So try and go after people's players that in teams that aren't also going to make the playoffs, and you can think like a Robert Foster or. Like I did in one league, I got Carson the year before he became relevant in Seattle. Really quite cheap because it only cost me a player swap, and I'd rather take a shot at if I think my knowledge is better in those player swaps, because if I think Foster's going to be better, say, than Golden Tate longer term, then that's a good idea.
And he is now, but last year he probably wouldn't have been.
So you use those kind of hunches, and people will often trade with you. And the thing I found very, very, very important in trading, and this is a really interesting bit, we should talk on this a bit, is there are many different kinds of traders in your league, all their stereotypes. I'm very easy to trade with, and I think this is a strength actually. So and sometimes people think generous, and that's okay, because if you're too tight, one of the problems is that after a while you might do really well for a year, and that's great, but after a while people sharpen up and they go, every time I trade with you, you're just trying to mug me off, and no one likes to feel they've had the wall pull over their eyes, so you end up not trading with them.
Well, that's why calculated can be a good thing.
Yeah, less and less partners. Whereas I much more prefer to I call it a give and take philosophy. So, and people who trade with me realise their trades are done really quick. If you're not trading with me quick, it's because the deal's rubbish. No one's going to be happy with the deal. I'm not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. None of us are going to be happy. If I'm dealing with you, it takes a few minutes. We're going to strike up a conversation. That's how I tend to deal. But I also keep a very open door, and I think this is very, very important with drafting. I'll only close it if somebody is wasting my time, they're trying to pull the wool over my eyes every single trade, they don't really care about my team, they're only considering their own, their offers, they're coming to me with players I don't need, you're not thinking of me.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to look at when you're trying to trade for players as well. If you're trying to trade someone a quarterback and they've already got 3 good ones, they're not going to want them. If you've got a running back, look for a running back needy team. Just click on the rosters.
You're going to find a much more willing person to open up straight away the moment you go, well, I can see your team. And it can't be a lie, because this is another thing that sometimes people say, oh, I think you're needy at wide receiver. And you look at your team and you go, I've got 2 starters that are really legit starters. You can only flex 1, and I've got 3 that I like. So no, I'm not needy. You're just saying that. So it has to be real. And as Al says, if you really are a needy running back team, somebody's coming to you with a running back that says that, you're going to listen. Because you're
a running back needy.
You're going to be more susceptible to, you're right, yeah, what did you have in mind?
And, that deal, it could be worked for both. Maybe you need a wide receiver, so you swap your running back for a wide receiver, you're both happy. Everyone's a winner. It depends where you got depth on your bench, really.
Yeah.
So just a few things, to look at when you're building a team, what to do, regarding how your team's getting on. I don't know, if you want advice on some rookies to pick up, we've got plenty of videos out there.
We're talking about players this year that we feel you can decide if the risk and reward is good, and you could use that to your advantage in Dynasty for sure. I also think it's good to throw questions at people, particularly ourselves. We'll always be very open about it. If you had to give one final kind of piece of advice around dynasty drafting, particularly when a team's gone badly. Maybe somebody's taken over a bad team. What would your philosophy be on a really difficult situation that you've taken over?
I think if you take over a team, you've got to try and trade for players you're happy with. I mean, we've all got players we don't like, even though they've got a perceived value. I mean, you're not a fan of AJ Green. If you took over a team that had AJ Green and I liked him,
I coach
I'd be like, well, I might be able to get a good deal here because Sean doesn't like him.
And I'll highlight something important as well. People have favourites, so use that to your advantage.
If you play with people a lot,
if you've got Darrell Henderson, I don't happen to have him, which would be rare, but if I don't, and you're coming to me with him this year, I'd probably bite your hand off. I'd probably even offer you a 2021st. That's how much I love him.
Exactly. If you play with players a lot, then you get to know what players they like, so you can get the right sort of deal because they're happy, they're getting the player they like. So.
And that's highlights a good thing that Al points out. So that's a really good bit of advice for me. It's if you've got a failing team, don't be afraid to treat it exactly as it is. It's a failing team. Have no qualms on selling everything. Frankly, it's not fire sale. You don't like it, get a team you do like. Build a team you actually like. Be comfortable around the fact that the year ahead is likely to be a journey. Now, that first year after rebuilding, you've got to think of it as a project. It's a 2-year project generally. It takes 2 years to turn them around. But you can turn them around. It doesn't matter what they are. And some people will be surprised. There are some teams I've got this year. I'm the first to say, like I said to Al, I think this is it did well last year, but I think I still need another year of building with that one. But this one I really like because I feel I've got all the pieces in place to make a run for a playoff team. Those things are fine. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to be realistic.
Well, that's part of the fun of Dynasty, He's part of the fun of Dynasty, building the team that you like and players that you like. And if it's not a going year, next year you're going to have a good pick and that's going to improve your team again. And the teams that did well have a poor pick most of the time. Unless they've really sort of managed to do well trading, they've got lesser players, so you've got the first chance to improve.
And it can change very quickly. Dynasty, people, we look at it in the long haul. This is another thing about it, really. You look at Dynasty and think over the next 3 or 4 years, but Al's got a great philosophy in this, I think, is the wisest one, which is you win now and then you worry about later. And that's proved very valuable to him.
You try and win now, but if it goes wrong, then you bail out. And then you try and get what you can for your players and you rebuild.
And I know what it's like to have, like when everything works. So you draft well, trade well, pick up rookies well. You have a strong team going into next year. There's no greater confidence that your team's you've got everything covered and there's no weaknesses on your team. But you are the team that everybody targets. So it's going to be harder to trade with. It's going to be hard. You have to remember these things. So picks count. Everything counts, and everything's relative.
Another thing I'd say, if you're doing trading, it's surprising how annoyed other people get with your trade. So, I mean, you can think your player's worth nothing, but you can say, I've got, I don't know, let's say, a very average player for sale. If you've got a WhatsApp group or a group me or a Discord site, you can advertise that player. And then, there are players that are going to like him. And then that annoys the other players in their team. They'll try and sell their crap players for money because they're annoyed that you've got a deal. But you've got to be the first one in there. I'd say if you're the first one in there, saying you want, you've got like an average player, like a Golden Tate maybe. You got a young team. You don't really want him anymore. He's gone to the Giants. His best days are probably behind him. You say you want a second or a third round pick. If you can get that, it's amazing how many people you can actually annoy in your own league and put them on even on tilt because they know you've got a good deal for somebody. Because somebody might like Golden Tate. He's been a good player in the past. He might do all right this year, but for long-term future, if you've got a young team, he's probably not for you, is he?
No, and that highlights that very well. I mean, I find in Dynasty one of the things that is the hardest thing to do is and you have to be good at all phases of it. It's fine when you're doing well. It's the hardest thing to rebuild, and that's why this video is here, because what we hope it will do is just give you some insights and some highlights about what you should do, and other things that can really help you. Calculators, I hate calculators. Anybody who knows me knows I don't use them, and that's obvious when I trade. But the reason is simple. I prefer fair trades where both sides, you feel happy, I'm happy, I'm getting the players I want, you get the players you want. Trades are quick. This means it's painless when I'm next trading with that person. And generally as well, it narrows down, which is quite clever, the people that are going to trade with me easily and the ones that won't, and the ones that are going to waste my time. So again, building forward, it's quicker for me to rebuild when I'm open than it is if I'm a closed book and I'm a difficult trader and you're having a bad season. It's bloody hard to open that door once you've shut it on people. So hard. in Dynasty, you can find yourself in a real hole because you can't trade because people aren't listening, and that's really tough. And this is another thing about Dynasty is never be afraid to, as Al says, strike open conversations openly with people about anything actually, because in Dynasty it's all about communication, and if you're not communicating with your fellow teams, even if you don't talk to them all the time, it doesn't matter, as long as when they come to you, you're prepared to listen and start talking and debating and saying, even if it's really like nice player but I just can't afford it, or would you consider this or that, it all helps for the future. You gain information on your fellow Dynasty drafters, and you must make a note on it. So small things like if he likes a certain player type, make a note and then use those notes later, because those can be very useful to you.
Exactly, it's about getting the best value for the players you're selling, really. Not at the expense of like ripping somebody off, but finding the right buyer. It's like any deal in real life, isn't it?
I think we all like a trade where we've won hands down. I mean, everybody likes to do that. There are many names for it. We won't call them on here, but there are many names for that. Okay, but the truth is, as much as that seems great and it's brilliant, you've probably done it because the other person is relatively raw at Dynasty drafting, probably, and you actually may not have. You may either lose that person, and somebody else has to come in to rebuild that team.
Because your own league won't be explaining coming forward, telling you about.
Nobody's going to. They might be annoyed, but they can't say anything because it was a trade that somebody accepted and they took the risks. But I think sometimes it actually is the quickest way to closing doors on you, because you've got to remember as well, somebody's going to come in, that people are going to talk, and before you know it, this is what I say about Dynasty. Redraft, you've got your team. It's probably set for the year. Other than waivers, that's about it, and a few trades. They're difficult to pull off because everybody, it's harder. In Dynasty, you've got longer, so there's more likelihood you'll pull off deals, you'll pull off trades, you'll pull off waivers. But coming with that comes history, and history can come back and bite you very hard quickly, particularly if you've been difficult. And if people feel your trades are lopsided, always in your favour, trust me, I can't stress this enough. The amount of conversations I've had about people saying, well, I'm not trading with him anymore because it's ridiculous. I wonder how many trading partners some people have got left, because it can't be many, and I'm noticing dramatically how hard it is for them to trade, and that's no surprise. So the only people they trade with are the new ones, and you only get away with that for a short period of time. So remember, it is about trying as much as you want a deal that's in your favour. That's so obvious. No, calculators give you this ridiculous situation where, on a calculator it seems fair. We're both getting about 100 points worth of players. Yeah, based on a calculator, you no idea what's going to happen. You have to go on what you want. Forget what a calculator says. Because I could make a deal with, say if Al was playing as a brand new novice to Dynasty, and I offer him a deal including 9 players, defences, kickers, and all loads of rubbish that you could easily pick up. On the calculator, it looks like I'm offering him the greatest deal ever seen. But anybody that knows Dynasty knows that's a ridiculous deal. It's no good to him at all. I've not done him any favours. I've just mugged him off. That is not good thinking long term, because he's never going to trade with me again once he realises the wall's over his.
And we don't trade very often.
We don't trade a lot, but that's for different reasons. Because often, actually, funny enough, we're often commissioners in leagues, so we don't like. We don't often trade because we don't really feel. Well, I don't know why actually. Why don't we trade? Why don't you trade with me?
You're terrible off, isn't it?
That may be the case, but
yeah. I think if you use a calculator, you're offered a deal and you like it, but the calculator says that you're a little bit down. There's nothing wrong with countering with a pick.
My favourite
for a third round or a fourth.
My favourite thing to do is just go on any media site that offers advice. Even throw the question to us and say, "Look, I'm being offered this deal. This is my team's situation. What do you think?" People will give you genuine advice. But
yeah, I've had a few people on Sleeper, believe it or not. We've done a few leagues on there, and my picture actually says the podcast name on it. I've had a few people friend me and ask me, my advice on trades and things like that. Yeah. And you can do the same. You can hit me up on Twitter on the fanpub_Al, or you can contact us on Discord. You can leave a comment on this video or any of our videos, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
if you want advice on a Dynasty trade,
never mind giving advice out,
or on a team, what to do with a team. If you want advice on what you do with a team, that'd be interesting. We're very happy to answer your questions.
And each of us brings a different, particularly for Dynasty format, both of us bring different perspectives which are useful. Al is a very canny builder of sharp teams that are going to do well year in, year out. I like to think my strength lies in actually instinctive stuff, so more about getting the players ahead of their trajectories and then capitalising on those and then reaping the benefits.
It's all about getting... every player has a perceived value. It's all about being ahead of that curve on the playing
Could you just, again, I know it's been a longer video, but this is good because there's a lot of valuable gold here. Could you give us, say, an example of a trade that you've done in the last couple of years that you, particularly in Dynasty? I've got one myself. If you'd like me to give you mine first, then could you give us one of yours? That you go, really like?
You go.
Well, I'm going to give you one that's a real example. That's a really interesting trade that was pulled off last year, which effectively won me a Dynasty league. The team was strong anyway. I traded away Tyreek Hill before any news for Julio Jones. So I'm trading away a younger guy for an older guy. This is 8 weeks into the season. At that stage, Julio Jones has not scored a touchdown. He's had some good games. He's not scored a touchdown. And Tyreek Hill's on top of his game. People looked at that trade and they went, what the hell are you doing? Right? And I have a trade partner. So I know full well the heat I was getting from my trade partner, who this is the person co-owner of the team, who gave me a tremendous amount of grief. And I justified it by saying, listen, I think that Julio Jones will give us 2 more seasons. We've got a great team. What we're missing at wide receiver was actually touchdowns. And although Tyreek Hill had a couple, I was concerned by something I saw in a team and something about his off-season activities that worried me going forward. And I decided to capitalise then and not worry about it. And what we got was Julio Jones went on an 8-game, shredded up the league and had one of arguably his best 8 games of his career. And that is my favourite trade of last year. On paper, it looked weak. It finished as a winning formula. He never stopped getting me touchdowns. And I never felt any week he wasn't going to score for me. And that's how good it made me feel. Now, he is elite anyway, whether he's got 1 or 2 years left in him. Unimportant, because in Dynasty, I've still got a team that looks great for this year. I mean, if you examine the team, it looks great. And I've still got him on the books for at least another season, and I've got another chance to fill that gap, shall we say, before he retires. So that was my favourite and a really interesting trade that required guts, a little bit of intuition and instinct based on what you're seeing in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a.
But I was.
That was a bold.
But I was winning well at the time, and I just wanted to cement the victory, as they say.
Yeah, you've seen something there, and most people would have called you mad for that. But
yeah, they did. But they didn't at the end, so that was okay. I'm happy with that. What about one of yours?
I think I tend to try and build teams gradually and just try and get little wins here and there.
Yeah.
But it's all about trading for people at the right time. I think Chris Carson was somebody I picked up for a low pick pretty early on.
Fabulous pick. Yeah, I remember that one, and that was a really astute move, and it got better and better every single week.
And I used him as part of a collateral to get, him and another player. What I like to do is trade 2 lesser players for a bigger player.
Package players up.
Yeah, I'd say that's something I look to do a lot in trades. I'd rather try and build like a high team. I know Gurley's got his doubts, but I've got Gurley on my team. I've got Zeke on my team. The team.
Well, there's no arguing how valuable that was last season. Let's be honest. Those two
exactly. So
incredibly valuable.
That won me a league. I think I've got Zeke on every team now.
Yeah. That doesn't look so bad, really, does it? It does sound very.
I've got Devontae Adams on that team.
Yeah.
I've got Edelman. He's old, but he did me a great job as my second wide receiver.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not a question. Age doesn't come into it when you're winning.
Yeah. I traded my 2020 pick for Aaron Rodgers, but I had Aaron Rodgers I get that value for that whole season. I got Rodgers for the whole season. That was enough for me to win the league, because I didn't think my starting QB was, although he didn't have a great year, the final week he got 50 points and took me the title.
Yeah, I mean that's about as good as it gets. I think
he put it to bed. Yeah,
it's about as good as it gets. I mean that's a fabulous.
Again, I'm always trying to trade. I think always trying to use my bench and another player to try and trade up the ladder for somebody I like. And it does benefit the people you're trading with as well, because they get 2 pieces,
which often they need.
So it kind of suits, yeah.
Which often they need. So it's a good piece of advice.
So it's consistently looking at your team and think, where do I need to improve? Who can I package together to get a player I really want that's going to take my team to the next level?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm always looking at. So if you can, you can build a team that way. I think I picked up James Conner last year quite early, quite cheap. and then I sold him on, and that's how I got Gurley. I sold him and Fournette,
Yeah,
which now looks,
it's good business.
yeah,
Yeah,
to get Gurley, because Gurley was the elite RB1 at the time, and and that made the difference between winning the league and not.
Yeah, and you haven't got to
And
worry about those. You haven't got to worry about those headaches either.
Yeah, Fournette's gone the other way. Obviously.
And look out for a future video on James Conner, because we're going to talk about him in one of those player profile videos in the near future. So keep an eye out for that.
Well, I think hopefully if you got any other questions or anything we forgot, then let us know and we'll address it. But I hope it's give you an idea of a few ideas of what to look for, and how to handle your team if it's going well or if it's going badly. What you should do really. You don't just sit there with old players.
Can I also mention one last thing before I forget it, because this is something that I think again is a lost thing in Dynasty. It's old school, so I'll mention it now because it's worth doing. Just make a note of your Dynasty team as they start the season, your players, and no matter what the scoring format, and just make a note every single week next to the name what they score, and look for trends. I use this a lot. I'm just sharing it with you. So when you spot something, you can capitalise. So if you see a player on a trajectory going up, it doesn't necessarily have to be your team as well. Look at other players you think are doing well and have a look at the trajectory. And if you think they're on a trajectory that looks amazing, particularly 2 or 3 weeks in before everybody works out what's going on, try to make a deal for that player. You might spot a young player coming up long before everybody else notices, because you focus on the players who are playing and not necessarily the players in someone's bench.
Yeah, there's a few that came out of nowhere, obviously.
So it just
Tyler Boyd would be one.
Yeah.
Did pretty well.
Just thought I'd mention that as a little point, because it's a good thing, and it can often guide your hand when you're thinking something's about to happen.
Again, Jalen Samuels was another player you could have picked up late last year in a lot of Dynasty leagues.
And we noted him on our rookie flyers, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. He's on our rookie flyers. Valdez Scantling is another one we highlighted a lot.
Yeah, and another good player on the up.
Yeah.
Looks good for this year. Anyway, that's our
so
video on Dynasty tips.
If you want any advice, give us a shout on trades or what to do with your team, how you'd manage it. We're happy to do that.
And even if it's a question in the comments about a certain player and what we think of him for this year, we'll either cover that in player profiles, or we'll comment with we'll come up with an answer to your question.
Yeah. So if you're still here, thanks ever so much for watching. Leave a like and consider subscribing.
Thank you for watching.